Okay, I'm Kevin Rice, and I'm finally here on Facebook Live here. And boy, it took me a few times to get on Facebook Live, and I'm here. And tonight I want to talk about this need not be. In other words, all the angst and the suffering and the sadness and the striving that arises in the field of awareness, this need not be. This need not be. And I'm really giving a lesson from Course in Miracles this evening. And I also use The Way of Mastery. And Aaron, if you could give me that book over there, I'd appreciate it as well. And thank you so much. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. I'm just connecting here as well. And let me just go here. Thank you very much. I also use The Way of Mastery as well. And by the way, this Saturday here in West Palm Beach at 1 o'clock in my home, I'm going to go through The Way of Mastery. And the details for this is in the description and in the comments as well. Hey, Lori, good to see you. I miss you so much, my holy sister. And if you have any questions, you're on the iPad as well, so any question that you have about this evening, join me. Again, this Saturday, 1 o'clock in my home, going through The Way of Mastery. Also, April 8th, we're moving it from April 1st, which is Easter Sunday, in Miami at Unity on the Bay. Because of that, we're moving it to April, I think it's the 8th, at 1 o'clock in Miami. So I'm doing a lot of things here in South Florida. And also, I'm available for counselings too, here in West Palm Beach in Miami. I do a lot of them. So if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to let me know, okay? Hey, Esteban, I love you, my holy brother. So tonight, I really want to talk about the angst that a lot of us have right now in this hemisphere, okay? And a lot of us are depressed or sad and so forth. This section from A Course in Miracles is really powerful, and after the Facebook Live with you, I'll put the whole section of it in the description of the comments below, and you can read the whole section from A Course in Miracles. It's very powerful. So stay with me here, folks. Untrained mind accomplishes nothing, okay? So a little discipline here is necessary for you and me to really awaken to the awareness of who we really are as a child of the light, as a child of the day. So I want to start here with, again, the lesson title, This Need Not Be. So before we do this, let's take a deep breath together, okay? Okay, let's take another deep breath. And we release, and as we do, we let the past go here. We let the future go as well. And we enter into the eternal, timeless now. Be here now. Let go of your fear. Let go of your anxiety. Let go of the minutia of this world. And to allow yourself with me to enjoy the comforts of the eternal, timeless now. This is why A Course in Miracles has been given to you and me. Really? It's kind of a way that our source has come out of time and space into time and space to bring us to a better direction, to set us on the right path, to know that we are not here to experiencing suffering at all, but to experience instead the bliss, the joy, the comfort, and the protection, and the safety that has already been given to us in this moment. Okay? Because of our psyches, for instance, we threw away our treasure that has been given to us right now from our source. The way that the prodigal son experienced the same thing when he threw his treasure away as well. He came back, and you and I can come back too. Okay, that is why we are here to talk about this, okay? A Course in Miracles is a wonderful, beautiful method for understanding this as well. Okay. If you cannot hear the voice for God, it is because you do not choose to listen. The fact that you do listen to the voice of your ego is demonstrated by your attitudes, your feelings, and your behavior. Your attitudes are obviously conflicted. Your feelings have a narrow range of variation on the negative side, but are not purely joyous. And your behavior is either strained or unpredictable. Yet this is what you want. This is what you are fighting to keep and what you are vigilant to save. Your mind is filled with schemes to save the face of your ego, and you do not seek the face of God. So let's just take that paragraph sentence by sentence here. Not all of it, but just a few of those, okay? If you cannot hear the voice for God, it is because you do not choose to listen. A Course in Miracles says in another way, hey Star, good to see you, my holy sister. There's another way that A Course in Miracles communicates this to you and me as well. That God's voice speaks to you, but you do not hear it because you are too preoccupied by your own voice. So in other words, you are a image maker, if you will. Okay, so your mind produces images within this world, and then you respond to those images as though that they are true. And one of those voices, or those images that you yourself created in this sphere, is the voice of fear that we call the ego. Now, we can't hear the voice of God communicating to us as long as we are bound by the past and the future. And the narrative, the storyline that the ego gives to us over and over again. Hey, Maria, good to see you, my friend. But we can choose again, each and every moment. Okay. And the way that we listen to that still small voice of love is to suspend judgment, first of all. And I'm not here to ask you to suspend judgment entirely. I'm not here telling you that you shouldn't judge, for instance. I'm here to say to you that you are incapable of judgment entirely. Okay? In order for you and I to really give an informed judgment about this world, we would have to know everything about it in the past, the environment and the conditions in the present moment, as well as the future expectations that we bring into this experience as well. And because I don't know the totality of your entire existence, for that reason, it is incapable for me to judge you at all. Secondly, whenever I judge you, for instance, I immediately contract my being, my body in this moment. Because my body, in its natural state, does not do well with judgment. So whenever I judge a brother or my sister, then I'm going to experience physically, emotionally, and with my feelings, that judgment internally. Okay? My body begins to be contracted, and it begins to withdraw from its own purpose and function within this world. Hey, Papadus. Hey, Nicole. Good to see you as well, Nicole. The second thing here is that your ego is demonstrated by your attitudes, your feelings, and your behavior. So let's talk about let's just talk about your attitudes here, your feelings, and your behavior. First of all, your attitude, because you associate yourself with an ego, tends to be more negative in our world. So do you ever hear from a Debbie Downer or a negative Nancy a lot in your world? It is because that individual has a tendency to listen to the voice of fear instead of opening their minds to the love of God that it is present for them in this moment. And Nicole, you're correct there. Judgment does lead to condemnation. Judgment, for instance, is an act of attack. That you are essentially in that moment attacking yourself in this moment. Keep in mind here that we're not dealing with 7.5 billion egos here. We're dealing with the one mind of God that you and I share right now. Okay? And this is the process of enlightenment, that we move away from that littleness, that smallness, that grandiosity of the ego, and step into our true identity as the son or the daughter of God's presence. Would you rather experience yourself with the wings of a sparrow when the wings of an eagle has been given to you from A Course in Miracles? Of course you want to let go of the littleness and just step into your grandeur instead. Hey, Bill, good to see you, my friends. So our attitudes are very important then. The way that we look at the world is extremely potent, because we're going to see the evidence of it in our world all the time. This is why Einstein said repeatedly to us that the biggest and the most question that we could ever ask ourselves is this: is this a friendly universe? And if we look at the world as a friendly, benevolent entity, then that is the experience that we will know with the evidence. If, however, we see the world, the universe, as an unfriendly entity, then that is what we will experience as a result of it. Okay? Hi, Kant. Good to see you, my friend. So our attitudes about the world is extremely important. It's about alignment. Whether we are aligning our being with the voice of fear, the ego, or whether we are aligning our minds and our attitude with the home of God. And there's a huge difference between those two dynamics. One brings you an experience of suffering, and the other one brings you an experience of joy. Okay? That's it. Your attitudes then, if you do not align yourself with the voice of God and the identity of who you are as a Christed individual, yes, your attitudes will be conflicted over and over again. Secondly, we talked about the feelings as well. The feeling of a temporary feeling of love, or a temporary experience of sadness and suffering and so forth. All of this comes from our identity and the attitudes that we bring to this world. And then thirdly, our behavior because of it is a result of the attitudes and the feelings that we are harboring in our being right now. If our behavior is unstable and inconsistent, it is because we are looking into the past, looking into the future, both states, by the way, which are not here at all, and to step ourselves into our reality instead. Aligning with clarity or confusion, Nicole says here. And this is exactly the recipe of either disaster or heaven itself. Okay? Secondly, this. Your attitudes are obviously conflicted, and your feelings have a narrow range of variation on the negative side, but are never purely joyous. And your behavior is either strained or unpredictable. Yet this is what you want. Now, this is what people don't like. They are experiencing a world that is conflicted, a world that is at war with itself, and the reason why we chose this, that this is what we want, is because this is what we are entertaining in our minds, our thoughts, our feelings, our attitudes. I've said it many times before, but I'll repeat it again. To whatever extent that we harbor a gloom and doom in our mentality, then boom, we're going to experience it in 3D Technicolor in this dream state right now. That is how it works. Hey, Beatrice. Good to see you, my holy sister. Yet this is what you want. This is what you are fighting to keep and what you are vigilant to save. Your mind is filled with schemes to save the face of your ego, and you do not seek the face of God. And you and I are here. Our purpose, our function, is to seek the face of God, because in that process of seeking the face of God, we are going to finally understand our own face, our own true identity, our own reality in this dimension. Okay? Secondly, the glass in which the ego seeks to see its face is dark indeed. And this is, by the way, from 1 Corinthians 13:12. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And the phrase from Robert Perry says, see a glass darkly, is a reference to looking into an ancient mirror which, being made of polished metal, was likely to tarnish or dim. Now, my friends, I look at this when I used to be a fundamentalist Christian evangelist years ago when I was like 20. I mentioned this scripture from the New Testament, 1 Corinthians, many times, and I really want to mention something also from A Course in Miracles that I look at as well. It says this: you are a mirror of truth in which God himself shines in perfect clarity. To the ego's dark glass, you need but say, I will not look there, because I know these images are not true. Let's say that again. You are a mirror of truth in which God himself shines in perfect clarity. To the ego's dark glass, you need but say, I will not look there, because I know these images are not true. Now, A Course in Miracles says, you say, Kevin, that sounds like judgment. That sounds like denial. And A Course in Miracles says there is a true version of denial, denying the denial of truth. In other words, you and I, in that moment, when those energies of fear and attack and blame and victimhood begin to arise in our field of awareness, it is our responsibility as a beautiful entity to say no, not because it's bad or wrong, but because it is not true at all. Okay? All right. Now, I will not look there because I know these images are not true. Now, secondly here, it goes further to say, how can it maintain the trick of existence how can it maintain the trick of its existence, the ego, except with mirrors? But where you look to find yourself is up to you. We have said that you cannot change your mind by changing your behavior, but we have also said, and many times before, that you can change your mind right now. So in other words, everything that we look at in this realm is a reflection of what is happening in our mind right now. So, for instance, and I'm going to ask my husband to come inside for just a moment to help me out with the light here, because I'm like locked on my microphone here. If you can hear me, Aaron, come here for a minute. Okay, I had to yell to my. Can you help me with the lights here? Just bring some light here, and turn this fan off as well. I would be very appreciative. Thank you so much. Just the fan, not the light. I need the light. And this light too, okay? And that's Erin Adams, my spouse here, who's been helpful in this Facebook Live. I hope this is better, everybody. Okay, now we're good. We're good. Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate it. All right. I had to find a new seat here today, so I didn't know the effects of the light around here. So I hope that you see me perfectly here. Now, I love this part here, but where you look to find yourself is up to you. And we have said that you cannot change your mind by changing your behavior, but we have also said, and many times before, that you can change your mind. And this is what we are talking about right now. That you and I are incapable of correcting something that is, number one, already in the past. And that is what we're looking at right now, the past. We're not looking at the present moment. When that light hits my eyes and it goes to the Facebook Live camera here, it then reflects itself back to my eyes, and that whole process is already over and done with. It's in the past. And therefore, I'm not in that moment informed anymore by the eternal timeless now, but I am informed by the past. And because it is in the past and already over and done with, it is incapable of me to correct it, to improve it. I have to accept in this moment that I have produced this energy from my thoughts. Now, I can spend all the time I want to blame everybody else for the ills and the woes that I'm experiencing right now. But I have to say, no, this is my responsibility right now to retrieve all of the projections, the image making that I have already done, and see it out here in 3D Technicolor, to retrieve it back into my mind, to accept 100% responsibility for what I am experiencing in this moment. And in this moment, I am so powerful, as so are you are too, so potent, that I can change my mind about what I am seeing right now. I don't care what event you are seeing right now. Because in reality, that event, that circumstance, that man or that woman who thinks is disturbing you or astonishing to you in that moment, if we know our reality, we have to say, hey, that event does not add anything to me. That event doesn't subtract anything from me. It does not change me at all. At all. Hey, Veronica. Hey, Yida. Good to see you all here. Nicole, thank you so much. He says, perception is reality. Exactly. That the world is nothing more than an outward picture of an inward condition. And those conditions involve our attitudes, our thoughts, the lens by which we are looking at the world right now. Okay? So let me say it another way here. If you're looking at a mirror, for instance, if I'm looking at a mirror right now and I see that my hair is disheveled, for instance, and I want to fix my hair, I do not go to the mirror to try to correct the reflection. I'm here to change what's happening here in the level of cause, not the level of effect. So this is why A Course in Miracles says repeatedly that this is a curriculum, this is a course in content and not in form of any kind. In other words, this is a course in essence, your love, your joy, and not in the images that you are producing or projecting in this world. In other words, I am no longer identifying myself with images I'm producing in my own mind, but I have to shift and align myself instead to my own holy, innocent, compassionate, and loving nature that is called me right now. In that moment, I can express the good, the holy, and the beautiful. And when I do that, and only that, then my experience in this world begins to change almost instantly. Okay? 3. When your mood tells you that you have willed wrongly, and this is so whenever you are not joyous, then know this need not be. In every case, you have thought wrongly about some brother God created, and are perceiving images your ego makes in a darkened glass. And this is the image that I'm talking about. When we look at, again, you are a mirror of truth in which God himself shines in perfect clarity. To the ego's dark glass you need but say, I will not look there, because I know these images are not true. And when I do that, and do not look at the images that my mind, the darkened images that my ego is producing in my mind, then it has no effect on me whatsoever. It doesn't add anything to me, it doesn't subtract anything from me, and it doesn't change me at all, because I am as God created me, and not what I made of myself. I am as God created me, and not what I made of myself. Now, let me see if we have any questions here so far. Give me 1 second here. All right, where's my iPad? It's right here. All right. Okay. No questions so far. Hello, everybody. Lisa, Nicole, Beatrice, Veronica, Esteban, Brad, all of you, Lori. I love you all so much, and thank you so much for joining me here in this sharing that I'm extending to you this evening. When your mood tells you, let me restate this again. In every case, you have thought wrongly about some brother God created and are perceiving images your ego makes in a darkened glass. Think honestly what you have thought that God would have not have thought, and what you have not thought that God would have you think. Think sincerely for what you have done and left undone accordingly, and then change your mind to think with God's. Look, folks, this is why I say this repeatedly. 2 things here. Only loving thoughts. Okay? Folks, say this with me. Only loving thoughts. Only loving thoughts. You say, Kevin, that doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. You know, it's the egoic mind that thinks that it can think anything and it's not going to have an effect in this world. It does have an effect in this world. Everything that we are experiencing right now in time and space is the result of my thoughts privately as well as our thoughts collectively. And we're going to see it here in 3D Technicolor. And we can change our minds in this moment. Okay? When arises, yesterday, I'll give you an example because it's talking to how we think about our brothers and our sisters, okay? And so last night, and this happens with you as well, a sister of mine, a friend of mine who's a sister, holy sister of mine, you know, an egoic thought arises in which that thought about this woman was awful, right? That this person is not really reflecting the love of God and so forth, and she needs to be changed, and I'm here to correct her or improve her or whatever, okay? I stopped that mental chatter immediately. And what did I do? I immediately stopped that storyline of doom and gloom and attack and blame on another person. And I retrieved those projections immediately through my thoughts and began to enfold this woman in love and compassion and innocence. Now, what does that mean? That means that I am no longer looking at her through the lens of fear and attack and shame. But through my thoughts, I can instead enfold her, number one, with compassion. Right? By saying, hey, Kevin, have you ever been an awful person in your past? Of course I have. Hey, Kevin, have you been unmindful about other people's environment? Yes, I have. And so because of that, everybody experiences those dynamics, and I can enfold that woman instead with compassion. That this person is not an awful person. This person is merely having a call to love. And it's my responsibility to bring some compassion around her instead. Okay? That's it. Compassion. Love. Enfold that woman with the unconditional love of God. That's it. And to see her not as full of sin, but rather to see her as innocent. In other words, I'm not using the past against her present moment. Okay? The past is over. And because the past is over and the future is not here, the only thing I'm really operating with this woman is innocence instead. She is neutral. She is harmless. Okay? And because of that, I have to know as well that she is also holy and sacred. And so my responsibility for her is to give her what she is asking for. An awakened mind. The light of God. The love of God. The joy of God instead. That is what I'm sending out in her hemisphere. Okay? That is what I'm enfolding the event with. Love, compassion, and innocence. Now, when I do that, my whole being begins to change almost instantly. Because number one, I understand how powerful and potent my thoughts are. My attitudes are so powerful, right? My attitude against her is no longer full of attack or fear or blame with her, but rather it is full of compassion and love and innocence. And then my experience with her begins to change almost instantly. Because my interpretation of her changes from the interpretation of the ego, the voice of fear, to the change and the interpretation of the love of God. This is how it operates, my friends. Okay, Nicole has a question here. Let me look down here. How do I know that sickness is not real, but I'm experiencing real pain? All real pain experiences in our hemisphere occurs when we align ourselves with the voice of fear. Now look, Nicole, let's be very honest with ourselves here. What God created in this sphere was good. It was good. Okay? Genesis 1. It is good. Now, what happens after that is that you and I, collectively and privately, chose otherwise. We chose poorly. By number one, identifying ourselves with an illusion we call the separation. Okay? And the separation involves me having a subject there and an object there called Nicole. That separation itself is violent and produces hallucinations and dream states. Okay? And so therefore, because of that identification with the ego, we're going to experience the effects of it over and over again. What is the effect of the identification of fear? The effect is suffering, sadness, striving, limitation, loss, depression, and on again. Nicole, I know very well that I've experienced pain myself personally. I went through 2 brain surgeries just a year and a half ago, right? Okay? I've experienced depression many times when I chose poorly, identifying myself with the voice of fear, the gloom and doom. Okay? But I can choose again. And when that alignment occurs, that movement from a identification to the ego to the voice of love, then the pain begins to dissipate. And an experience of wholeness and totality begins to dawn upon your mind and my mind as well. If, Nicole, you have pain right now, what are you unfolding that pain with? More pain? More judgment? More blame? Victimhood? No. That's going to perpetuate the pain. But you and I are here to experience ourselves as painless. Okay? This is what God's will is. And so we want to identify ourselves with the will of God, not the will of the ego. And I mentioned this last Thursday, and you can watch the video, by the way, on our website, the academyofspiritualawakening.org, or on my Facebook page here, where I talked about the inclination of people wanting to attach themselves more on the negative effects of this world, instead of the positive and loving aspects of this world. And as a result of it, we're going to experience the effect of it each and every time. Look, the ego wants you and I to blame the world for our pain. And the moment that I accept 100% responsibility for all of the pain that I'm experiencing right now, I have to know that that is my mind doing it so. Let me give you an example here. Today in Miami, and I go to Miami at least a couple of times a week. I speak there all the time, do a lot of counseling in there as well, and then I saw on the TV, on CNN, that several people died, right? From an awful bridge collapse that occurs. I know that. I know that we are going to see over and over again the effects of death that I privately as well as collectively entertain in my thoughts. So I'm going to see the effects of death over and over again as long as my attention, my energy is placed upon this. Now, don't take this wrong here. I'm not saying that those losses today in Miami is now a good thing. It's not, okay? It is a call to love. It's a call to health. It's a call to wholeness for all of us. To say, hey, I see that I have participated, privately or collectively, into a dynamic that brings an experience of death and despair and so forth in my life. It is my responsibility to begin instead to unfold that whole event, today's event, with compassion, with love, and innocence. This is why A Course in Miracles says, loss is never loss if it is properly perceived. Okay? This is an opportunity for us collectively and privately to know that every time that I attack anything in my world, I'm going to see the effect of that attack in my world. If ever I entertain for even a moment the thought of death and doom and despair, boom! In this dream state, I'm going to see the effects of it over and over again. And we can deny that all that they want to. I don't care. That's there. You have free choice. You have free will. But I cannot disregard the fact that you and I are operating in a dream state. A Course in Miracles says it simply. Do not allow your mind to play with or dance with the intricacies of the dream. Do not give your attention to it because it hides the nothingness from you. Last Thursday night, and we have the video of it on our website and here on my Facebook page as well. The nothingness of something. If my thoughts begin to produce something that is serious and brings a level of resistance to it, then boom, I'm going to see it in the dream state. This is how our dreams, how our sleeping dreams occur as well. I'll give you an example of what I mean here. I know we have a lot of questions from this, by the way, in my statements, but it is my truth. I really believe it, 100%. But let me give you an example of what I mean here. So, yesterday, right here, I took a nap in the afternoon, okay? And it's a nice couch, too. I love taking a nap here. And the fan right ahead of me was going over and over again, okay? And I was sleeping soundly right here. And immediately, my dream produced, my sleeping dream began to produce what? A representation of what I'm experiencing externally with the fan above me. So that fan then, through my dreams, produced a phenomenon we call a helicopter, going over and over and over again in my sleeping dream state. Okay? Now in that dream state, the sleeping dream state, I was experiencing as a serious problem a reality, quote unquote, of a helicopter right hovering over me. Is that true? No. It's not true. And the same is true about our waking dream state as well. Okay? You and I, personally and collectively, produced a world of death, limitation, and loss. The moment that you and I, and I mentioned this last week and I'll restate it again, Adam in Genesis fell into a deep sleep, and in nowhere in the Bible did he ever wake up from it. And so therefore, all that Adam dealt with was a dream state. A dream state. And the only venue in which an illusion, like a helicopter in my sleeping dream, the only venue in which an illusion can be afforded reality is within a dream state. That's it. So, that means that it's my responsibility to take what I'm looking at, a dream of suffering, a dream of death, a dream of tears, a dream of sadness, with the help of the Spirit of love, to change that dream of doom to a dream of love, a dream of happiness, a dream of bliss. Okay? Because in that moment I understand that I'm not just a participant within the dream, but I am the dreamer of the entire dream. And so are you, and so are you, and so are you. Okay? You say, Kevin, what are you telling me here? You're telling me that I'm in a dream state? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And to whatever extent that I can replace that narrative of doom and gloom away and forget it by forgetting the past entirely, letting the expectations of the future to be released from my mind. The moment that I can loose the world from all of that I thought it was, then I have an experience, what we call lucid dreaming. I'm aware that I am dreaming a dream, and it's my responsibility to awaken from it gently, and gingerly to my own reality as a son of God, a Christed individual. And this is your responsibility as well as a daughter or son of God. We are God's creations right now. Now, what we have made through our mind, our thoughts from the ego, is immaterial because it's happening in a dream state. And through extreme forgiveness, we can instead enfold the whole entity, the thing that we call the world, with the light of God. This is why we can change heaven, we can change the world, the earth, to have a state instead that reflects the heaven of God. That's it. That's it. Now, let me look here to see if we got some questions here. Nicole, I have PTSD, nightmares. Can't stop them being trying to kill me. Okay. Nicole, we have another one. Working so hard on my conscious mind. Okay. All right. Nicole, keep in mind here, I'm in West Palm Beach right now, okay? And I was in my convertible that I had years ago in West Palm Beach, and I was driving on Okeechobee. And I stopped with the top of the convertible open, okay? And in that process, from 6 stories ahead, dropped a huge, what would I call it? A bar, like a huge, what do I call it? I don't even remember what I titled it back then. It was like a thing coming from the condo, and it was about this big, and it was full of steel, and it dropped itself right on my car, right in front of me. Okay, so it was like this far away from my head. Popped out, right? And in the back of me was 2 8-foot poles that dropped right behind me. And it just dropped on my car. Okay. Now, because of that, I experienced PTSD as well. Okay? For like a year. And I went to a psychiatrist, had to go through a process of bringing my mind to its proper place. Now, I'm saying all of this, Nicole, for this reason. You say, Kevin, how could that be a result of what you experienced in the PTSD? Look, my friends, and the same is question I also asked myself when I went through 2 brain surgeries a year and a half ago. So, first of all, number 1, we're dealing with dreams here. What we are discussing are dreams, okay? Secondly, this dream will over and over and over and over again will display itself in a dream state in my mind until and unless I forgive the whole dream itself, okay, as a reality. Okay. So in other words, I cannot just say that Kevin Rice is just who I am. This is not who I am. My reality, Nicole, is all of this. This whole thing is a production of what my one mind that you and I share right now that produced an event, a circumstance that was telling me, hey, what you have done, either from this realm or, let me say it this way. A Course in Miracles says you have 3 levels here that can produce an event or circumstance in this world. The first one would be an ancient contract that we made ourselves within ourselves in our minds, our one mind. The secondly would be the voice of love producing a circumstance or an event that actually brings an experience of healing and totality. And I really believe that what occurred with the 2 brain surgeries I went through, that was a gift. It really was. I've never experienced so much joy in my life because of it. So all of that event came up to be healed. And the third thing that I could bring to bear in this dimension is my own misperceptions of it. So the moment that my mind begins to harbor attack, condemnation, and so forth, boom, I'm going to experience the effects of it almost immediately. There is a cause and effect relationship that occurs in a dream state. But keep in mind that what we are discussing is dream states. Dreaming. Okay? And so because of that, it's my responsibility to forgive the whole event or circumstance with extreme forgiveness. Last week I said it and I'll restate it again. The difference between forgiveness, when I know that I'm not just a participant or a victim of this world, but I'm a dreamer of the entire dream, and secondly, extreme forgiveness involves me understanding that the dream state never occurred in the first place. Just as well, I knew when I woke up this morning from that nap, or when I woke up from that nap yesterday afternoon, thinking that a helicopter was hovering over me, when instead, in reality, the fan above me produced itself an image in my dream state that produced something that was like to it. Okay? When I understand that the dream never really occurred, only in a sleeping state, then I can awake from it. And the same is true about your waking dream as well. Okay? God did not create death. There is no sin. It has no consequence whatsoever. When we begin to align ourselves with that realization, just as Jesus did when he recognized the dream state and then awoken from it, as well as Buddha, as well, when he and Jesus experienced the temptations, what were the temptations? This is serious. This is an event that you've got to resist and have war with it and so forth. My friends, that will make the dream state more dense and real. When you can begin to experience yourself with non-resistance, then you go, oh, wait a minute here. I chose poorly through my thoughts, through my intention, my attention, and so forth. But I can choose again in this moment. In this moment. Let me see if we have any questions here. Make it a dream, a happy dream. It's so true. Okay, let me look here one more time on my iPad to see if we have any questions here. Veronica, good to see you, my whole friend, my holy sister. And Nicole, I hope that I've answered your question. Look, folks, I've got fundamentalist Christians in Kansas City that are my family. I love them so much. And I think that they love me too. And they are sincere fundamentalist Christians who believe in the storyline that I think Billy Graham dropped into the field of awareness of hell and heaven and sin and guilt and so forth. All of that is BS in my mind, okay? Total BS. And it is not in any way, shape, or form a reflection of God's love. Now, this is why Jesus, I'm going to just end this discussion with you by saying a few things here. Look, I love Jesus, okay? And Jesus himself said, I think it's Luke, I think it's chapter 17, I think it's verse 35 perhaps, you can Google it, where a lawyer approached Jesus and said, hey, what do I have to do to live forever? And Jesus said, what does the prophet say? What does the law say? And the lawyer said that we should love God with all of our heart, soul, and strength, and love others as we want to be loved. And Jesus said, do this, and you will live forever. Forever. My friends, that is the foundation of true Christianity. That's it. The golden rule. Why is the golden rule so freaking important to us? It's important because it is the opposite of what we are bringing to the dream state right now. Okay, Jesus said previously in the New Testament that the poor will always be with you. Why would the poor be with us always? Because we entered ourselves into a dimension based on bankruptcy and limitation and scarcity. That's it. Scarcity. So we identified a thought of lack and limitation, scarcity, and then boom, I'm going to see the dream represents it in that moment. Scarcity. You say, Kevin, how do I know when I'm experiencing scarcity? It's real simple. When your attitude, your belief set says, what can I get from this world? You with me, folks? What can I get? You want to know whether you are identifying yourself as an ego? It is because you are coming from a premise and a posture of what can I get in this world? What can I get in this relationship? What can I get in this work relationship? What can I get in my friendships and so forth? Boom. You're going to see poverty and bankruptcy and scarcity and limitation and lack all the time. Because you and your mind and my mind individually began to play and dance with death. And boom, we're going to have the phenomenon of death arise in our field of awareness. But we can choose again. And Robert, you are absolutely right. We want to connect with Jesus by saying, from a posture and a premise, what can I give? What can I give in this moment? I can, in this moment here, I see this field of awareness that I'm looking at right now. I can acknowledge that in the past I have dropped a pebble of fear and death and limitation and suffering into my mind. And because of it, I'm going to experience the ripples of it because of it. But my mind is powerful. And because of this, I can drop a pebble of love and forgiveness and joy and beauty instead into this pool of awareness. And I'm going to experience the ripples of love and joy and comfort and bliss because of it. You don't like what circumstance or events that you are experiencing right now? You are not reacting to reality directly. You are reacting to your interpretation of this world. And that interpretation either is going to be given to you through the lens of fear, or you're going to experience it through the lens of fear. Okay? In other words, you want to operate yourselves from a posture of resurrection and not crucifixion. Because you and I, in the past, have nailed ourselves on the cross of time and space, the past and the future. And we miss ourselves the experience of love and joy that has been given to us right now. Okay? And because of all of this, you don't have to be afraid of anything. You don't have to be afraid of being uprooted. Okay? Immediately from this dream state. No. This has to be done gently and gingerly, where you, step by step, understand that, you are dreaming a dream of suffering and death and limitation and loss, but you can begin to dream a dream instead of totality, of wholeness, of oneness, of unity, of compassion, of innocence. When I approach this moment sacredly, because it is sacred, because you are sacred, you don't have the past and the future to taint you anymore. You are free in this moment, and so am I, through our thoughts, alignment with the mind of God. We can choose again each and every day. Yes, Nicole, right? Yes, give without expectation anything in return. This is true. What can I give, Robert? I'm going to give the love of God to a world that is in desperate need of hearing it. And that is why I'm here right now. My only function, my only purpose in this world is to extend the good, the holy, and the beautiful. I'm not going to traffic myself in the storyline, the narrative that the ego gives, right? Expressing the hate, the attack, the blame, the victimhood anymore. No. My responsibility is to awaken from the separateness that my mind has produced in the first place. I'm going to end this here right now. I know it's been an hour, and many of you just went south immediately, and that's okay. God's children, all are called, but few choose to listen. Okay, so if there's a few people listening, that's fine with me. I don't care. But I really want to end here by saying one more thing with you. I really want to end my experiences in this dream state by a prayer that is really aligning with the will of God. A Course in Miracles says the kingdom is perfectly united and perfectly protected, and the ego will not prevail against it. Let me say this again. The kingdom is perfectly united and perfectly protected, and the ego will not prevail against it. So this is what Jesus meant when he said the kingdom. The kingdom is not only within you, the kingdom is you. Okay? So when you begin to operate this world as a Christed individual, then your experience in time and space begins to collapse, and you begin an experience instead. You have an experience that is a lucid dreaming state in which you withdraw from the tools of separation and the tools of the ego and step into your reality instead. You are a mirror of truth in which God himself shines in perfect clarity, and to the ego's dark glass you need but say, I will not look there, because I know these images are not true. And then every night, and my best friend Chris Jackson wants a birthday gift of this statement, and I'm going to give it to him, because I love him so much, and I love everyone too, equally. So say this prayer with me as we end this evening, okay? Okay? Be in my mind, my Father. Let every minute be a time in which I dwell with you. You have remained with me and always will be there to hear my call to you and answer me. As evening comes, let all my thoughts be still of you and of your love. And let me sleep sure of my safety, certain of your care, and happily aware I am your son. From A Course in Miracles. Google it. Say this prayer to you every night, and I'll tell you this as well. And by the way, Reverend Chris Jackson did this at Unity on the Bay in Miami yesterday and asked his attendees to sit there quietly in their seat, close their eyes, and to see themselves as the Christ incarnate now. As the love of God incarnate now. And when you do this as well, your spaciousness begins to expand. Your whole view of the world begins to change almost instantly. and you see the flash of heaven light up over and over again in your mind and your field of awareness. And you begin to step into and abide into the Christ, the kingdom of heaven. And then you begin to express the good, the holy, and the beautiful, experiencing and extending only your reality of love right now. Okay? And if you have any questions here, folks, I'm responding to you right now, and I'll respond to you in the comments below. I'll also give you a section of A Course in Miracles called This Not Be, what's it called here? Let me give you This Need Not Be, okay, from A Course in Miracles. Join me this Saturday at 1 o'clock here in my home in West Palm Beach. Just go to the comments or the description here as well. Thank you so much, by the way, for all of your donations to the Academy of Spiritual Awakening. Using our website, the academyofspiritualawakening.org. Any counselings that you need here, call me, 305-807-2090, or kevininmiami@gmail.com, or chooseonceagain@gmail.com. And if no one has told you today that they love you, I so love you, it'll make your head spin, okay? And only loving thoughts